President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has described the verdict of the Supreme Court that affirmed him as a rightful senatorial candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Yobe North as democracy at work. The Senate President says the credit for the victory should go to the APC and its constituency, who insisted that there had to be an appeal at the Supreme Court. He commended the judiciary for the verdict, saying it will strengthen Nigeria's democracy. In the lead's judgment on the case upheld by 3 justices against 2, Justice Chinwe had faulted the approach of the claimant Machina in commencing the suit at the Federal High Court's Damaturu Division by way of originating summons and without oral evidence to prove allegations of fraud. But the minority judgment by 2 other justices upheld Machina's earlier victory. The Supreme Court judgment is currently generating wide controversy across the polity.
I didn't, as a person, as an individual, go to the Supreme Court to seek for a redress. But my party did, and my people, the people of Yobe North and Yobe State generally, and many political associates and well-wishers and supporters across the country and beyond, who showed interest that there has to be an appeal at the Supreme Court on this matter. So today, this victory is for all of us involved. I am the symbol, but the victory is for our party, the APC, and for democracy.
All right, we're now being joined first by Senator Mohammed Hassan, who is the Yobe State Coordinator of the APC Presidential Campaign Council and coordinator of Ahmed Lawan's campaign committee. He's in the studios with us, and also with us is Arise Legal Analyst Chinwe Izegbu. We'll start with Chinwe first, and later Mohammed will come to you. Very warm welcome, Chinwe, to Newsnight. What are lawyers making of this Supreme Court judgment? It's all in the public space, the different comments by Nigerians.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It has been... Thank you very much. And thank you for welcoming me to Arise News. It has been one of the most controversial Supreme Court decisions we have had in recent times, particularly because we have just 19 more days to go for the general election on the 25th of February. Not only was it not a unanimous decision, it was a split decision, which makes it even more cumbersome. Many lawyers all over Nigeria are discussing about this controversy, and we really hope for the very best for democracy and for Nigeria at this stage. More particularly, the Supreme Court decision was based on a very tiny technicality where 3-member majority panel actually emphasized that he ought to have filed a writ of summons as opposed to an originating summons. So it was based on that technicality that the lower court's decisions were set aside, particularly that of the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal decision was regarded as perverse and set aside and nullified by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Chinwe.
Thank you.
There is, if I'm right, a decision by the Supreme Court about a decade or 2 ago on the issue of technicality, where it ruled that should not form the basis of a judgment, particularly originating from lower courts and the rest. Why has the Supreme Court reversed itself here, using just simple technicality away from what some people will call legitimacy here?
You're very right, my dear colleague. You're very correct. The fact is that over the years, Supreme Courts hardly ever overrule their own decisions. They hardly ever review their decisions. When they do, on very rare occasions, it becomes a precedent for future cases. We can only hope that the Supreme Court will, on this occasion, perhaps, but we just have 19 days to go, perhaps review the decision we have. But I doubt very much whether that will be the case because of this technicality, as you have said.
Indeed, Chinwe, yet the Supreme Court is infallible. Would you say you understand what the courts are doing these days? And I ask that because of the stance of precedents. Are there any precedents? Are these cases based on precedent? Are we seeing a departure from the norm when it comes to the Supreme Court of Nigeria? And Chinwe, I just wanted to ask you, furthermore, it has taken 2 primaries, a placeholder hullabaloo, and the Supreme Court judgment to get Ahmed Lawan back in the race 18 days to the election. Would you say this has made the process more democratic, or is it exposing the flaws in the Nigerian political system and processes?
Well, that's a very good question, because democracy is never perfect. Even in the United States of America, where we have precedents, and at the last occasion when we had the riot at the Congress, it just shows you that there are imperfections in all democracies all over the world, not just in Nigeria. So we can only hope and pray that with time, our Supreme Court decisions may well be made more predictable and perhaps fairer and more equitable. But it's very difficult to predict Supreme Court decisions at this time. Very difficult indeed.
Chinwe, some Nigerians may not expressly agree with you to say that, particularly in this democratic dispensation, that the Supreme Court is becoming very predictable. From your perusal of the judgment, do you think the court, the Supreme Court, most especially, is helping to sustain this democracy?
Well, we lawyers, actually, we all have utmost respect for the Supreme Court. And their decisions are binding, as you know. So I can only say that we must comply with what decisions the Supreme Court makes. It may well not be very palatable to some sectors of our political system, but we know that where there is a unanimous decision in the Supreme Court, in most cases, people are happy with it because it comes across as fair. But on this split judgment that we have today by the Supreme Court, some people are not happy, but there we have it. We have to obey and comply with the rules of the court. And Supreme Court is the highest in the land.
Arise News legal analyst Chinwe Izegbu, thank you so much for your analysis on this story.
Thank you.